Welcome to It's Your Time. And today, ladies, we're diving deep with someone who's been real, raw, and radiant on and off screen.
The pressure may be placed upon you, whether you choose to accept it or not, is on you. I've never let fear be a reason that I don't do something, even if it's scary, even if I don't quite know how I'm going to do it.
Andrea McLean, the woman who made us laugh, cry, and feel every part of life with unapologetic honesty.
A man does not have to be brooding and strong and distant and harsh. And that's not a signal to you to try and fix him and make him better.
We'll be talking about the pressures of being superwoman, moments behind the scenes, family, and finding strength through the hardest times.
How can someone who says he loves me not see how upset I am? Severe pneumonia, failing kidneys, I went into renal failure and sepsis. I nearly died.
Andrea, I feel like I need the full Loose Women experience today, so let's get started.
Hello and welcome to the It's Your Time podcast. Today's guest is someone who has over 2 decades worth of broadcasting experience. She is a #1 Sunday Times bestselling author. She has pivoted so many times, I'm surprised she's not dizzy, and she is not afraid to go after what she wants. And guess what? It's me, Andrea McLean.
Yay! I love it, Andrea. Do you know, I was thinking on the way up here, I was like, I'm going to flip the script. And I'm going to get Andrea to do this so I get the full Andrea McLean experience. Because I've watched you for so long on Loose Women, like introducing all these guests. So I'm so happy to have you today.
Oh, thank you. I've never done my own introduction before. And normally when you do something like this, it's the weirdest thing hearing your own life read back to you. Yeah. Because so often when someone is meeting you and they're going to interview you, there are different things that stick out to them as interesting. And so often I've forgotten that I've even done it. So actually putting me on the spot to think, right, what is interesting about me is actually hard.
Yeah.
Because
it always is, isn't it?
It is, because I was raised never to show off. You know, don't be bragging about yourself. Who do you think you are? So I just stuck to the facts. Those are the facts.
Yes, and what an incredible woman you are. So
Thank
amazing
you.
to have you. So I'm going to just go straight in and ask you about actually your time on Loose Women.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a really powerful part of that when I was thinking about it was you had so many women that came and sat around that table, different panelists, different guests. You would have learned so much and heard different perspectives. But I also feel as women, you can sometimes have a lot of noise in your head where one person's saying, too big, too thin, too much makeup, not enough makeup. And actually being the host and hearing all these women speak, because there was often debates on that. Did it sometimes end up feeling more confusing?
No, because the power of that show, and I genuinely think it is the most powerful show on British television. I think it's an incredible program, is everything that you said. The fact that every woman is different. Every woman comes at a certain point in their life with a different perspective. They will have been told many different things throughout their life. And for me, my job as the anchor and the host, I saw it as everybody brought all these amazing different sounds. And my job was a conductor and to make sure that all their sounds were heard evenly so that it made a beautiful noise. So I never felt overwhelmed by it because I wasn't really necessarily absorbing every bit of what they were saying and thinking, well, how does that relate to me?
Okay.
I was thinking, how can I help them shine?
Yeah.
It was more afterwards when we'd sit around chatting, having a cup of coffee, that then I'm not work Andrea, I'm, me, Andrea.
Yeah.
So then I would sort of listen and take some things on board. But hearing all those different perspectives, whether it's women being told they're too much, they're too loud, they're too big, they're too small, all of these things actually really helped with any doubts that I might have within me, because I'd look at them and think, well, you're not too big, you're amazing, you're not too small,
Okay.
you're a powerhouse.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So any doubts that I might have or might have had, it was really easy to think back and go, actually, no, I love that woman for who she is. So why should I doubt me for who I am?
And it's incredible having women around you, isn't it? With all different perspectives. And because I think as we grow, we need people sometimes to tell us how it is. For so long, you can often have people that are always telling you what you want to hear, but it's nice to be challenged. It's nice to be pushed against the grain a little bit and to sort of think about life and wonder, what's right and what isn't, and etc. And so I guess some of your best years were Loose Women, were they?
Yeah. I mean, I went through best of times, worst of times at Loose Women. And in terms of the whole idea of surrounding yourself with people who feel exactly the same way as you, it was a huge change to go to work on a program like Loose Women, where the whole remit is that you are surrounded by people who have completely opposing views on things.
Yeah.
And it was the thing I loved the most, because it reminded me of Sunday evening sitting with my mum and dad around the dining table. My dad loves a debate. He loves a debate. He still does. He's 80. Now he loves a debate. And so for me, it took me back to that time when my dad would always challenge me. Why do you think that? And what about this? And playing devil's advocate and all this kind of thing. And it also made me realize actually how closed off my friendship group was, because we all do. We're drawn to people who feel the same way that we do. And it makes us feel like we must be so smart and so clever because everyone feels the same way I do.
Yeah, exactly.
So therefore, I must be right. And actually, when you come up against someone who goes, that's the biggest lot of nonsense I've ever heard, it's quite a shock at first. But then this part of me that I hadn't thought about that for such a long time kind of woke up again, was really invigorated by it. Clearly not all the time. Sometimes you go home and kind of lick your wounds and think, wow, that was quite something. But no, on the whole, it's such a refreshing thing to surround yourself by people who don't feel the same way that you do. Yeah. And it's so unique in these very unique times that we're living in at the moment, where people are afraid to say anything that someone might disagree with them. I wish more people would actually embrace it. Surround yourself by people who disagree with you and feel differently, because the reason we all come to the opinions that we have is through our own life's experiences. So most of the time, someone who disagrees with you, it's obviously because they have a different life experience to you. So be curious. Rather than feeling, that you've come up against a brick wall, try and see over it, try and see through it and understand how they've come to that point. And you will always find some point of connection, even if you never fully agree on whether it's, oh gosh, you can disagree on everything, whether it's politics, whether it's identity, whatever it is. There's normally some kind of grey area, I suppose, that you can agree to disagree really nicely on, and you can join.
Yeah, I love that, Andrea. I really do. I think you're so right. As humanity, we are linked as humanity, and as humans that have empathy, we can understand someone on some level. We don't have to always love that person, that person, agree with that person. That might be someone that you work with. That might be someone in your friendship group. That might be a family member. But I think always finding some sort of middle ground to be able to at least be kind is important.
So, for example, and look for those opportunities where you can perhaps see the other point of view, which is really hard, really, really hard. And I'll give you an example. So we're going through a great time of change in our family right now. And one of the kids in particular is being a bit gritty about it. And it's making things a bit, rather than a smooth transition, it's being a bit scratchy. And out of nowhere, this lady that I really respect sent me a copy of her book and asked me if I wouldn't mind reading it and casting my eye over it. And I had a bit of time this weekend and I thought, yeah, okay, I like her, I respect her, and I had a look. And it was literally the universe had handed me this book in my lap. It's all about change. It's about navigating change.
Oh, wow.
And what reading this made me see, I haven't taken on board this person at one of our kids' perspective, that actually they're scared. Okay. They're being difficult because they're scared. And once I'd shifted my view on it, I stopped feeling really frustrated, and I actually felt a lot more empathy for it. And I had a word with my husband and said, actually, I think we've been tackling this a bit wrong.
Yeah.
I think actually we need to step back a little bit and be a bit more empathetic. And it completely worked. It diffused the situation. It didn't change an awful lot because things are still going to happen and change, whether they like it or not. That's part of life. Yeah. But I think making them feel like they were heard made a big difference. Even though this is happening anyway, we hear you and we understand how you're feeling. And I think we can do that in so many parts of our lives.
That is very powerful. I think feeling like you're heard and are able to voice your opinion in a safe environment, whether that person agrees or not. How old is she?
She's in her 20s.
Okay. We come across this all the time in life, don't we? So none of us I don't like change. I was just saying, I'm such a hoarder with everything in life. I find it really hard to let go, whether that's items or clothes or people to evolve and to grow. Sometimes you do have to shed and you do have to embrace change. You do have to be flexible. But
well, literally this morning before I came to see you, I had a whole lot of boxes out on the dining room table and some black bin bags. And I was literally just getting rid of stuff.
Oh, you're so good.
Literally getting rid of stuff. And it's because we're moving. Yeah. So we're having to just, why am I carrying all this stuff around? And it was a joyous few hours of looking back through literally teenage diaries and that kind of thing, and photographs and old autograph books, literally from my school years. And I looked at them and I smiled and I put them in a bin bag and they're going to the tip.
Oh my gosh.
And you might think, oh, that's terrible. Yeah. But I kept a few little bits. I kept enough things that there was like a representation of that moment in time. So it's not letting go of everything completely. And some of the things I took photographs. So I'm going to form like a little folder, at least on my computer, of the things. But I don't mind letting things go.
You need space for what's coming as well.
Yes, and if you're taking all the energy of the things that maybe haven't, I'm not talking about my teenage diaries because they were fine. They're hilarious, actually. My writing was so small. Maybe it was so my mum couldn't read it. I don't know. But anyway, my writing was so small. But I think if you're constantly carrying with you the energy of things from your past, how can you allow space for new energy from your future? And it's not even a woo-woo thing. You're literally carrying everything with you. How can you possibly think that you're going to evolve and change? You're too heavy. You're carrying too much stuff. So let it go.
We've seen you on the camera, but I know there was a lot of things going on behind the scenes as well, behind the camera. And something that I did want to focus on a little bit was relationships. Can you just talk me through a little bit your journey with it? Because I know when we spoke, you said, I'm on my third husband, and you laughed and I laughed. It's like, good on you, girl. Tell me about it. Tell me about that journey, because each one would have taught you something very valuable, I'm sure.
It's not somewhere I ever thought I'd be. My parents have been together for, oh my gosh, must be coming up to 60 years now. Wow. They met at 15 and 16. I'm trying to do maths in my head and failing. So they met at 15 and 16, and they're 79 and 80, and they're still together. And I thought I would have that. And I met and married my childhood sweetheart, who I sat behind him in geography and thought he had lovely hair. And
what else does a girl need?
Exactly. It was the 80s. He had great hair. And I thought that was going to be it. But what I didn't allow for, and hindsight is an incredible thing, was that trying to emulate something that my parents had, I didn't take into account that I'm not them. I'm me, this other person is themselves, and trying to create something actually is unfair. And it's taken me a long time to get to that point, because for many years I was heartbroken. I was devastated that it didn't work out that way. And I made many, many mistakes, which I can see now. But the learning has been much later to look back and go, actually, that's quite unfair of me. This was me projecting what I wanted. And I see so many young women doing this. I've got this vision. This is how it's all going to be.
Trying to mold.
Yeah. And then the second marriage, crikey, what did I learn from that? Don't do that.
Oh no. Was that more lust, or like where?
No, that was trying to fix what I couldn't fix before. I tried to repeat it again and thought my remit is always work hard, work really, really hard, put 100% into something and it will all be okay. And if the other person only has 10%, you give 110. And again, hindsight now, I realize, one, you cannot make someone love you who is never going to love you in the way that you really, really wish them to, for all the goodwill in the world, the best intention in the world. That will never happen. And also it's unfair of you to ask that. And secondly, you can't change someone if they do not want to be changed, even if them staying the way they are is to their own detriment and is to everyone else's detriment. Actually, the best thing you can do is to leave. That was what I discovered from my second marriage. I can literally count on one hand the amount of men I've dated, never mind married, that I've ended up just marrying all of them. And the way I see it is, I used to be embarrassed about being married 3 times, because it made me sound like a very kind of different person to who I am. But actually all it is I'm very nice. I'm great fun to be around. And I got asked 3 times. There's
good
not
on
many
you, girl.
women that have that. So
and you're brave, because there are some women
and I'm not bitter.
Yeah, okay, which is a double bonus, because I feel some women are too scared to make that move. They might be on husband number 4 if they were brave enough to actually look in the mirror and really look at what's going on and see the true reflection of everything. So you were brave to actually take stock and say, this isn't serving me, this isn't right for me. Because what made me laugh is when you talked to me about meeting your wonderful husband now, Nick, and how you just weren't interested.
Not in
you
the
kind of
slightest.
turned up
I'm
on
done.
a night. Yeah. So go on. You've got to share this story because I love it.
So I met my 3rd husband on a blind date that neither of us wanted to go on. And we only went out of politeness for the other couple, because he was invited by the husband. I was invited by the wife. And I worked with the woman, and he knew the man through his work. He'd never even seen a picture of me. He didn't know who he was meeting. I'd seen a picture and thought, yeah, he looks nice, but I don't want to go. I'm done. I've been married twice. I'm clearly not very good at this. My way of getting over my 2nd divorce was, I thought I need to focus on doing things that just make me happy and keep me busy. So I enrolled in agricultural college, and I was doing Loose Women at the time, and I went to agricultural college and did garden design. So I focused on, I'm at home, I'm with my kids, I work part-time on Loose Women. I'm done. I don't need a man in my life. Yeah. And basically we both turned up, and within an hour we were walking down the street in Brighton, and he asked what I did, and I thought, oh no. And I said, I'm an anchor. And he said, what's an anchor? So I host a TV show. Oh, okay. And then he looked at me, and we talked about what show it was. And he went, oh, you're that one on the end. I said, yeah, I'm the one on the end. And within a split second, we went round a corner, and a hen walked round the corner, and they all started screaming, and they all gave Nick their handbags and their phones to take pictures of me in the middle of them. And that was the night that his role began of holding handbags and taking photographs.
Bless him.
And I literally thought, do you know what? And I said it to him, you could go away and Google me and find out all kinds of nonsense about me. This is the truth. This is who I am. Like it or lump it. I genuinely don't care. Yeah. We'll have a nice time tonight with our friends. But if I never see you again, I don't care. And then
harsh,
he was sitting there nursing his drink thinking, this is possibly the strangest woman I've ever met. But we had a lot of fun. And he seemed kind. He seemed nice. And we were walking through, we had gone for a meal. We then went for somewhere to dance that has old people in it, like us, not full of kids. And the room was very crowded, and he reached out to take my hand across the room. And it was the first time really we'd even sort of connected. And he took my hand, and we both just went, boom. It was like the whole world stopped, and this bolt of electricity went through both of us. And it had never happened to either of us before. It was the strangest thing. And we looked at each other, and it was like we'd known each other before. And he kissed me, and I've been with him ever since. Considering neither of us wanted this relationship. That night, something really weird happened. And we, apart from anything else, we became each other's very best friends. We were both going through a really challenging time. We should never have worked because we both had a lot going on in terms of recovering from, different things that we were going through. We were both brokenhearted in our own ways. But actually, we left a lot of space for each other to just be ourselves. So we never had that kind of glitzy honeymoony period. We never did any of that. We just talked a lot and really got to know each other. And that's how it still is. He's my best friend. Oh. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes he really gets on my nerves and I get on his nerves and we fall out. But it doesn't last for very long because to quote Forrest Gump, he's my bestest good friend.
Oh, that is so lovely. Do you think it's because you've grown in wisdom over the past few relationships that have maybe not worked out? Mm-hmm. And there's a book, I don't know if you've heard of it, it's called Are You the One for Me? And basically it strips out the butterflies, the lust, the physical attraction. And it talks about when you're trying to find your person, it's based more on energy, values, integrity, like all the boring stuff that people don't really want to know about. Even, children, marriage, religion, whatever it might be, spirituality. But it's almost about like laying this foundation on thick, and then once that is solid, you can just keep building. But a lot of people ignore all of that and just go for the lust, or just go for the attraction or the butterflies. And that doesn't last long, that. And then this bit just shakes and then it crumbles. And it's not just about the other person. It gives you so much time to think about actually yourself as a person and the things that you could have done differently. And that can only help you grow as a person. So do you think both of you coming together at this stage is because you're both almost wiser?
100%. And before I'd even met Nick, he had said to himself, I am not coming out the other side of this experience the same person that I was, because I can't.
Yeah.
Because all I will do is bring all my same mistakes that I've made. And he made a lot of mistakes. And we've laughed about it, that if I'd met him when he was younger, I wouldn't have even liked him, never mind loved him like I do now. And so he made that decision in himself. I need to learn and grow. We're kind of sold that story through Hollywood and romance novels. And I grew up on romance novels. I grew up on all of them, the 80s romance movies and Mills and Boone and all that. And
Disney, like...
And Disney.
We grow up with Disney, that there's every princess that finds their Prince Charming and then they just go and ride off into the sunset.
Yeah, and nobody talks about what happens after. The end in all the Hollywood movies ends when finally the guy gets the girl or the girl gets the guy. That's when it starts. That's not when it finishes. That's the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think that, my learning and growth from my experiences of previous relationships didn't happen until I was in the relationship that I'm in now. It started, the process had started, but the cementing of it and the kind of aha moments of, oh, right, okay, I'm repeating that process. Stop trying to fix people who either, one, don't want to be fixed, quite happy as they are, thanks very much.
Yeah.
And how rude.
Yeah.
And to even look at myself and go, oh my God, yeah, that was a bit rude. Didn't think of it that way. I thought I was very girl guidey and helpful, and actually I'm really annoying. And that's, I own that. But also understanding, it goes back to what we were talking about right at the very beginning, understanding where someone comes from for why they behave in the way that they do. And we came to that understanding through couples therapy. So couples therapy is something that most people shy away from, because people think you go to couples therapy when you're having a problem. And initially we did. And the problem was, initially it was me. I had a breakdown back in 2019 where a lot of things that I'd been through in previous relationships, I just thought, right, I'm going to keep a lid on that, not look at that anymore. And they kind of all burst out. I went on SAS Who Dares Wins, and they put a bag on my head. And when the bag pulled off, literally all the bats that I'd kept in the cave trying, they all came out and I couldn't get them back in again.
Right.
But it was a really useful experience, because once I felt better and I'd processed all these bad experiences and very harmful experiences that I'd had, we decided, right, as a couple, we need to make sure that he understands there'll be certain things that he might do or say that might be extremely triggering for me, that he might think are not a big deal. And because I pushed them down and pretended everything's fine, actually now you need to understand that certain things can really set me off in a bad way, as in I'll get very upset, but I internalize everything. I'm a brilliant internalizer, which is not that good.
No,
so
overthink everything, don't you?
It's not even the overthinking. Actually, it's the opposite almost. It's the I'm not going to think about that. But you push it down.
Oh, so you suppress it all.
I suppress it all, and the body keeps the score. And then the next thing you know, you're really upset about something and you don't know why. And it's because of 100 things. But you're wondering why one tiny thing has upset you. Okay. It's not. It's because of 100.
Stacked up.
And there was one day, the counsellor had asked us to discuss why we react in certain ways when we have an argument. We hadn't had an argument for ages, and we had one in the car on the way.
Oh, right, okay.
Which we arrived mid-argument, and she opened the door and went, this is brilliant, because now I can see it in real time.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to hear, well, she does and she's... And it was really useful, because we realized that our reactions to discord were so different, but they both came from a place of love.
Okay.
Understanding that he shuts every argument down and doesn't want to speak about things is actually through fear, because he doesn't want it to escalate, because he's worried. With me, it's I need to get a resolution on this, because if it doesn't resolve, it will always be there.
Right.
And if it's always there, I've still got it in me and I don't know if I'm okay or not. So understanding that, such a basic thing, which again goes back to what I said at the beginning, it's what's behind the behavior. So even now, if something happens and he'll shut me down and walk away, rather than thinking, he's not listening to me, he doesn't respect me, I think, okay, he's feeling really scared that this is going to get bigger. Let me just have his moment. And for him, he has realized I'm not escalating. I'm trying to get to the bottom of things because I'm scared as well. And that's a huge learning. If couples can learn to argue better, they would stay together longer.
What do you think the key is? Is it what you've just said? Is it also sometimes in the moment just giving each other some space so that...
Yeah, let them say their stuff.
Because emotions can often be
like
so
I'm doing
high.
now. Stop interrupting. literally. No, you don't mean that. How do you know what I mean? It's literally just let the other person sometimes just speak it out until they literally taper off and can't even remember what they're annoyed about. Without interruption is very hard because every bit of you is wanting to jump in and correct and go, that's not right. That's not what I meant. Oh my God, how can you say that? Actually just letting the other person speak.
And I think it's what you said earlier about your daughter as well. I think we could all get so much better at the art of just listening. And when I say listening, I mean letting the other person feel heard. So it doesn't mean that you have to agree, but they feel like they can just get it off their chest. But because I know exactly what you mean, they're saying something you don't agree, so you're going to interject straight away because you're going, but no, you're wrong. Or if you just
listen,
and they're probably also thinking,
this is
okay, this is a bit boring. I better finish this up, wind it up. I'm not getting the usual reaction.
So
I agree, actually. And we could argue better, disagree better.
Always learn. Couples that learn to argue better will stay together longer.
Because you resolve better, don't you?
Yes, and you need to learn to resolve and agree to disagree. And what's the big stuff and what's the small stuff that you're going to be sweating? Because you're going to have all the things. And no relationship ends because of one big thing. All relationships end because of 1,000 tiny things. And then one big thing. It's, my first relationship ended because he couldn't make cauliflower cheese. And that sounds ridiculous, but it was the final straw of I was doing the lion's share of childcare. And I had to go away with work, and he was raging because he had to make them cauliflower cheese. And I thought, how have we got to this point? We don't even have to make that. That just shows how much I do, and you just take everything for granted. So to leave a marriage because someone can't make cauliflower cheese sounds like very trivial, but it's not.
I get it. So with your relationship with Nick, something that you wrote about in your book was a moment where you felt suicidal. And I'd really like you to talk a little bit about that, if that's okay. More is where were you at that time? And I don't mean like physically.
I was in Glasgow.
Just where were you in your mind? Like, where were you? Because like you've just said, sometimes things stack up till you get to the point where you just feel like, talk to me about that moment.
So the moment that you're talking about is a moment I write about in the book called This Girl Is on Fire. And the reason I decided to leave it in is because it's about burnout, it's about trauma, and it's about overcoming all these things that, particularly as women, that we might suppress and think, it's not actually that big a deal. And we've heard about you can have trauma with a big T or a small t, and all of us will have experienced something at one point or another that will have caused us upset or what have you. And what had happened at this moment in time was I had gone on SAS Who Dares Wins, which, for anyone who doesn't know what that program is, it's an incredible show where 4 SAS soldiers, officers, literally put you through your paces, and you're abducted, there is a black bag put over your head, you are shouted at, you're interrogated, you're beasted, and beasted is when basically you're woken up in the middle of the night and you're completely disorientated, and then you have to do certain really difficult exercises out in the open, very rough ground. And the point is that you are mentally, physically, and emotionally battered. You're just so exhausted. So any mask that you might be wearing comes off. And the point to it is they want to see who you really are.
Break you.
Yeah, they want to break you. And you might be asking, why did you say yes to
that
doing
literally
the show?
was my question. Like, why on earth?
I said yes to it. I was 49.
Okay.
At the time, the episode that I did, it was the first time they'd allowed celebrities, and it's the first time they'd allowed women. So I was the oldest woman to have ever done it. And I was the only oldest person to have ever done it at the time. That's changed since then. There's people older than me. And within minutes of starting that show, there was a look in one of the men's eyes, and he looked at me, and it was like I was back in a previous relationship. And all the things I tried to push down,
surface.
It almost vomited out of me. It was all the fear and all the things that I'd experienced, which were extremely damaging and abusive, all rushed into my head. I knew I was safe. I knew I was doing this show, but my body felt completely different and my mind felt very different. And they saw that in me. They could see something had happened. And they called me in and interrogated me. And in the end, they were very kind, actually. And I told them some things that I've literally hadn't told anybody at that point. And what they said to me was, we are going to keep shouting at you. But what we want to see is, we've dehumanized you. You're a number now. You're number 4. But what we want to see in you, all the anger and pain that you held in during that time, I want to see it in you. We want to see you get angry. We want to see you fight back. If you're doing any of the exercises that involve, we had to fight each other. We had to do all these things. We want to see rage, let it out.
Okay.
And so I did my best with it. And in the end, I got hypothermia. We filmed in the mountains in Chile. So in the end, I went home. I thought, I'll get home and I'll just put this whole experience behind me and pretend it never happened. And of course, I call it the bats were out the box. I couldn't get these memories back in and this kind of thing. And it was almost a year later of holding it in. And I wasn't explaining to Nick what was actually going on.
Okay.
And so I was becoming more and more upset, more and more tightly wound. He couldn't understand what was going on, so he was getting frustrated with me. And the worst point came when I went away to film a job, and we'd had an argument before I left. And I thought, how can someone who says he loves me not see how upset I am?
Okay.
And I felt absolutely at my lowest point. And I did. It was the first time I'd ever got to a point where I thought, do you know what? Everyone's better off without me. I'm carrying all of this stuff and I'm obviously so worthless. Everyone is better off without me. Luckily, it didn't work. And the next day I got up and went to work. And you might think that sounds
when you say it
mad.
didn't work, do you mean?
I don't want to go into what it was, but I had tried.
Oh, so you actually tried
and
to...
it didn't work. And I woke up the next morning and I was in a hotel and I went to work and I didn't breathe a word to anyone. I went, and what's so weird now is if you watch that show, you would not know that the night before I'd been absolutely at my lowest point. And I came home and I said to Nick, we need to talk. This has happened. And he was devastated because how can he love me and not know? Yeah. And that was why we went to couples counseling. Because one was to understand and reach a point of understanding for, like, say, all the bats that come out the box. But also as a couple to understand, how can I communicate better when I'm feeling that way? And how can he spot signs quicker? Even if I'm holding it all in, how can he see? And then what happened with that, so that was in 2019, so many years ago now, we have a shorthand to it. So we can see really quickly if one of us is either feeling sensitive or getting overwhelmed or getting stressed, and we understand and let it go. I'll give you an example. We were in Spain last week and Nick was losing it in the car. He was shouting at people and beefing and what's the matter with you and all this kind of stuff. Just not him. He's a very chill guy.
Right.
And the old me would have gone, what the hell are you doing? Why are you carrying on like that? Oh my God, you're really stressing me out. And I thought, why is he behaving in this way?
Okay.
And I rewound it and thought, we're in a hire car. He gets really stressed about hiring a car because he wants it to go back immaculate, because he gets really wound up that if they're going to go, yeah, that chip wasn't there or that wasn't. And we hadn't damaged the car at all. We were literally on our way to hand it back. That's what he's stressed about. It's not me. It's not the other. And I sat there and he shouted and yelled and beeped and did all the things. And I never said a word. And then as we were walking through the airport, probably 20 minutes later, after it's all happened, he just went, thanks for letting me be an arse.
I love
That's
it.
okay. That's all right. Are you all right now? And he was like, yeah, I'm all right now. We've given the car back. That's what it was. So I know that's what it was. And that's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's understanding what's behind it.
Yeah.
It's that, because so often we think, you're being so mean to me. Why are you being so rude?
Yeah.
He doesn't love me. I can't be with somebody who talks. And you make up these huge scenarios in your head, and it's not about you. It's about a rental car.
When you said as well, when we spoke last time, that you have also started to go to counselling before anything
preemptively,
happens.
yeah.
Because I think everybody thinks counselling is for when things have gone wrong. But actually, how powerful it is to understand each other more deeply. Because you don't have to have had 1, 2, or be on your third marriage. Like, people take trauma from childhood that they don't even know is there, that stays suppressed. And so many things, like you've said, stack up and then manifest differently and look very different. And I think if you can really understand each other, and in that process learn to understand yourself,
any kind of help that you can get preemptively, then you're taking action towards finding a great way to work through something rather than behaving retrospectively and being reactive. So, for example, we had couples counselling again when I left my job in television, because I'd done this career for 2 decades. I loved my job, but it was the middle of the pandemic. And I genuinely felt that if we are all going to die, I want to die doing something I love. And we had set up This Girl Is on Fire, which was our female personal growth business. I really wanted to help women have the mental tools to learn and grow. But we understood that this is a great lifestyle shift. So we need to understand how to handle this, that I'm going to go on a Friday from broadcasting to millions of people, and then to the Monday working in our converted garage at home, sitting with Nick full time. Obviously I'd done it for years before, but full time. And suddenly I'm not that lady anymore. So who am I? And also, how is he going to react to this change of my change of identity? And I'm around all the time because he's been running the business full time while I've been doing other things and coming in. He's going to feel protective. I'm going to feel a bit choppy because this is all very weird. So understanding that's going to be a problem meant we could sit down. It was over Zoom because it was a pandemic. With our counsellor, who was amazing, and just said, okay, just understand that you're both going to be feeling a bit strange right now. This is a big moment. And do what I just said. Let the person just almost blah, 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 blah until it peters out, and just listen. And sometimes that's enough. You don't even need to find a big resolution or anything like that. Just, let him feel, but this is how I always do things, because that's how he's going to feel. And then it will peter out and he'll go, okay, but you're here now and you work in a different way, so I'll let you. And let her feel, don't boss me about, you're not the boss of me. This is my business. And so that was how we got through it.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing it. We look after our bodies, and we know that we need to feed it nutrition, and we go to the gym because we know we need to really work on our body to keep it fit. And then it's almost like we're in a relationship or we get married, and then we don't have to work on it because, that's it. We're just together now. And actually what you've said is exactly that. It's like you've always got to keep learning and understanding. And it's like the most important thing in people's life is their significant other and the lives that they build and the family and the children they bring into it. And not enough attention is spent on that, I don't think. No. And so you saying that's really highlighted and really shone a light on it, I think.
And I think going back to what you said earlier about the idea that, two people will come into a marriage with their cookie cutter idea of how they think it's going to go, and we never mention it because we assume that the other person is feeling the same way as us because we have so much in common. And actually,
or they should just know,
or they should just know. Whereas actually, you could be coming at something from a completely opposite point of view, and that's okay because I think a good relationship is a Venn diagram. There's you, there's the other person. And as you cross over in the middle, that's your relationship. But you are still a whole circle. Your relationship is a bit in the middle. And I think too often we don't know what goes on in the other person's circle, if you like. We just assume they're going to think the same way as us. And also we assume, and if they don't love me or they don't love us. And it's nonsense.
You talk about these two circles and the bit in the middle, which is almost like a blended part. Which takes me on to actually something I really wanted to talk to you about, because it was only a term I probably heard about 2 or 3 years ago. So I'd always known people would introduce their son, for example, as their stepson or their stepdaughter. And that's always felt very detached.
Okay.
And then I one day was speaking to some close friends of mine, and they mentioned a blended family. And I got it straight away. And obviously he had children from his first marriage and she had. And I thought, that sounds beautiful. Like blended family just sounds so much lovelier. And so you have a blended family with Nick. Can you just talk a little bit about what it's like to have a blended family?
It's noisy. It's full. I can't imagine life without it. That's what my blended family is like. And I think that every blended family is unique. There will be some certain commonalities in terms of, like what you've just said, it's children reacting to a new partner being introduced, and whether it's, a son and his mother, or a daughter and her father, or however way it works. We knew this was going to be a goer before we even introduced the kids. So I didn't meet Nick's children for 18 months.
Okay.
And he met mine maybe after 8 months.
Okay.
But it was different because I lived on my own. Sort of every other weekend I was free, if you like, because they would go and see their dad. Kind of the other way around for him, if you like. I had been divorced for 2 years already. He hadn't. He was still in the process of going through his divorce. So I felt that it would be the wrong thing. I felt for the kids' sake, it's the wrong thing.
Wrong timing.
I felt that they had enough on their plate and it wouldn't be fair to introduce anything else. And they needed to navigate the sort of choppy waters of their dad not living with them anymore, and let them come through that, and let them understand that their dad is not with their mum. It doesn't mean he's not with them. Yeah. So once we were introduced, I made it really clear that you have a mum. I'm never going to try and be your mum. I'm in your life, but I'm not your mum. And that's never changed. I'm still not their mum. Yeah. I'm Andrea. I'm also not their friend, in the same way that I'm not my kids' friends. But I am 100% there for them. I love them. We both lay awake at night. You're only ever as happy as your unhappiest child. Yeah. And with 4 in the mix, there's never all of them happy at the same time. So we worry equally about our kids. There's a constant shifting dynamic of different ages. They're at different stages. So what's it like? It's like a normal family with added complications of some people live with us full time, some come and go, this kind of thing, and then other parenting ideas coming into the house. The kids are actually quite lucky that they have parents and step parents on both sides who admit when they've done things wrong, admit when we've made mistakes. Yeah. We're prepared to listen, and of course there are rules and there are boundaries and all of those important things, but it's not my way or the highway, and just because I said so, like maybe in previous years, generations. I think that, like any kids, whether blended or not, they won't realize actually how hard we've tried and how well we've navigated certain choppy waters, probably until they're my age now.
You have to live it, don't you? I was saying to someone the other day, it's like I feel like I sound like my mum, but I had to experience certain things, even if it's just raising children. It's only until you have your own and you start doing things and saying things, and then you think, oh, I sound like my mum now. But it's because
that's why she said that. Yeah.
Things do just come with age and experience.
Yeah, and they say that you don't fully appreciate your parents until you become a parent, and that's partly true. But I think you don't fully appreciate your parents until you become a parent of older children, because then you're navigating adults. It's a lot easier to navigate smaller children when they have to do, as you say, when they're toddlers and they're little, and they eat the food you prepare and they have bedtimes that you've implemented. But when you're parenting young adults, it's very different. And I actually have so much more appreciation of my own parents now, and I'm lucky. I love my mum and dad, and I've always loved and appreciated them, and we've always had a great relationship. We have a great relationship now, but I appreciate them so much more now. And I'm in my mid-50s, nearly tipping over the not mid-50s, so that the other next big birthday in a few years is 60. But I appreciate them so much more, because I can understand when you're navigating young adult scenarios and people have their own minds, you almost have to let go even more, because you can guide, you can advise, and then you have to just let them go and let them fall. And not to say, I told you so, but it's like trying to get a child to wear their, knee pads and elbow pads when they're skateboarding.
Yeah.
It's not till they fall off and come crying to you, they ever go, okay, that's why I tried to offer you the knee pads. You're going to put them on now. And
but that's the hardest
when they're
part,
older.
isn't it? Often it's really hard to know that they're going to fall, but no, you have to let them.
And you're not being
I'm
the
always
bad guy.
prepared. I'm always like, I've got the whole suit. I'm ready to be there to save and capture and fix. And it's only recently, and honestly, Andrew, I'd say it's only the last year that I've started to practice now. Where I'm like, be quiet. You've said, now watch it unfold. But this is how they're going to learn.
And learn is a key word. And I think if you can reframe it, that actually this is, you're giving them an opportunity to learn a life lesson here.
Yeah.
Because, oh my gosh, imagine if you kept them as little tiny ducklings and they go out into the big wide world and they are so twinkly and naive and have not experienced any kind of challenge or pain. You're actually doing them a great disservice. You need to let them fall over a few times and be there, obviously, for support, hugs and chats afterwards. But no, they need to fall.
Yeah. I just wanted to touch back on loose women. And actually, this girl is on fire, because you have spoken to so many women and heard so many different stories. And obviously in this age group as well, there's a lot going on with perimenopause and menopause. But for you, all the women that you've spoken to over the years, would you say there's like 2 or 3 like problems or worries or things that all women share, that there's just a thread that goes through them all? Is there anything specific that you can think of?
That's such a great question. The main thread, I think, that loops through perimenopausal and menopausal women, anywhere from the age of, late 30s through to late 50s, I would say, is that sort of that changing of identity. Because perimenopause obviously in itself can last for over a decade. And that tends to happen at a time when women have maybe preteen children, or maybe even younger children if they've left having a family until later. So already there's an identity shift that is happening there, because they're no longer a solo unit. They are now perhaps a wife, as well as a mother and a co-worker and a daughter and a sister and a friend. And all these identities that we have, they really shift during those years. And I think by the time we get to the sort of later stages of that, through 40s and into 50s, that change of identity, I think, becomes really magnified. And I know, people throw around the term midlife crisis and this kind of thing. And it's normally used more with men and associated with red sports cars and, I don't know,
upgrades,
younger models and all of that kind of thing. But actually, it's really pertinent to women as well, because suddenly there is this, who am I if I am not? And I saw it with, obviously, lots of famous people who come in and maybe had pivoted career, or maybe they were actresses who are now singers, or maybe they're campaigners or what have you. But there is this feeling of, who am I if I'm not who I used to be? When it comes to women in the public eye, and it's tied around the idea of being beautiful or being successful or being famous, that's really quite a strong identity to let go of, on top of everything that everybody else is feeling. And I think that for me, I've been so fortunate to meet so many incredible women who have kind of looked that identity shift in the face and thought, this is not a new me. I'm actually going back to who I always was. Yeah. She just got busy doing other things. And that's how I feel.
Do you?
Yeah, I feel people talk about, this time in our life is when, you discover this whole new person. I'm this whole new me. And, I'm coming out fighting. And actually, you're a lot more tired than you were before. So I don't necessarily want to fight. I just want a lot of peace. But actually, it's not a new you. It's who you always were. You just got busy. I feel like I'm who I was when I was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13,
Yeah.
and just figuring things out. And then I got busy doing career things, relationship things, parenting things, all of this.
Suddenly always putting other people first, because you suddenly have these beautiful babies and they become your whole life, or you're running a house, or you have a partner. And I feel we're really good as women, Andrea, to put ourselves right at the bottom of the list. And I think suddenly there does come a point where maybe it's slightly empty nest or things start to change, or you look in the mirror and think, without sounding cheesy, like, it's my time now. And you're like you said, it's that core, it's the true you that comes through and shines out. I do think it's a powerful time though, where you can reinvent yourself. It doesn't mean that you need to have all this energy, but it can be finally just sitting in your own skin and your own self and doing what makes you happy. I say this over and over again, and I don't want to sound repetitive, but how blessed are we each day to wake up and see a new day? I'm sure you, as well as I, have lost people close to us significantly younger. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. So let's not sweat it so much and just go live and be happy, right? It's harder to do. It's easy to say, but I think reality checks every now and again. And I don't know about you, but I practice a lot of gratefulness, mindfulness. Something in that makes me grateful for so much, the smallest things. I think there's some powerful shifts that you can make as well to improve the quality of your life.
Health is key. When you are healthy, you can have 99 problems. When you are ill, you have one. And I quit my job in the middle of the pandemic to go all in on something that I truly believed in. And I ended up getting long COVID, which is something I did not factor in. And clearly running a business in itself was very stressful. And we had put our everything into it. And I ended up through becoming very, very poorly, which is still ongoing. I'm still not well. We lost everything. We lost our business. We lost our home. We lost everything. And we, as a couple, had to, navigate that. So we talk about change of identity. There was that. And then at the start of this year, the end of last year and the start of this year, I was hospitalized with severe pneumonia, failing kidneys. I went into renal failure and sepsis. I nearly died. And there is nothing as awful as staying in hospital and being as poorly as I was. And then obviously the aftercare that happened afterwards, it took a good few months of hospital outpatient care to even get me to a point where I could walk to the end of the street and feel well enough. That shifts everything when you say you're not guaranteed tomorrow. And once you get over the kind of, oh my God, that happened to me. Wow, you hear that happening to other people. Bloody hell. That's happened to me. There is a moment where you can, I think, sit down and go, do you know what matters and what doesn't matter? Yeah. Luckily, I was already pretty much there because of having long COVID and literally losing everything with our business and, that loss of identity. What it meant was when we decided that you literally only get one chance. If you can do anything, what would you like to do? So how often do we ask ourselves that question? Oh, I'd love to do that. Oh, I can't. If you could do anything, what would you do? Oh, I would do this, but I can't. I've always wanted to live back in the sunshine again. I grew up in the Caribbean. I was really lucky. My dad was an engineer. I grew up in the Caribbean. And when I realized I'm 55 now, if I'm very lucky, I might have 30 summers left.
Yeah.
And that's lucky because I nearly didn't see this summer. Yeah. The one that we're in right now, I nearly wasn't here for it. I want to live in the sunshine. So we literally have changed everything and we're relocating and we're moving abroad. And
I love it.
Literally leaving everything behind.
Yeah.
And anything we can't sell because we need the money, towards the move. It's just stuff.
Yeah.
What's important? We're important. Our family unit is important. Do I care about stuff? Other than my Christmas decorations. That's literally it. I really like my Christmas decorations. That's the only thing that we're taking on, some clothes because I have a really nice warm coat that I'm going to make sure I keep. It's all just stuff. And
so at any age, You can make a change.
Yes, and don't. So I'm in my mid-50s. I have pivoted many times. I have pivoted when I was in my early 20s and I didn't get the job on the local paper up north and thought, right, I'll move to London and be a writer, and literally slept on floors and had everything I owned on the backseat of my mum's old car. That was a pivot. I pivoted again when I accidentally misread a job advert and it was to be a weather presenter and thought, okay, didn't see that coming. Okay, here we go. I'm now a weather presenter. Let's see how this goes. And then pivoted again to leave telly. And now I'm pivoting again to, and never mind, obviously, relationship pivots as well. For me, I've always been very lucky that even from when I was a little child, when a moment presented itself, I would zoom forward in time and I would imagine myself as an old lady, which is hilarious because I'm probably picturing myself at this age. When I was an old lady. And I would think, will I regret not doing this? And if the answer is yes, do it.
Yeah.
Even if it's scary, even if I don't quite know how I'm going to do it or what have you. I've never let fear be a reason that I don't do something. There could be lots of other reasons, sensible reasons. But if the main one is fear, work through that. And so often we're held back by fear of what other people will think. And particularly if it's ending a relationship that is not serving you, if you are staying in a relationship because you are too afraid of what people might think, if they're not there to help you at a time when you are going through difficulties, they're not going to help you on the other side of that when you leave. So they don't count. So don't don't concern you. I'm actually very good at that because I found out the hard way that the people who are there for you are never the ones that you expect when you get divorced. The friends.
Why is that?
I think people feel threatened by you because you've been brave enough to make a change and maybe you're shining a mirror on something they don't want to look at.
That's interesting.
But even, like pivoting now, there'll be people who think, that's so selfish. How is she doing that? Unless they are living in my house and paying my bills or are my friends and have my number and I love them and care and they have a valid point. I thank you for your feedback, but I don't care.
Do you know, I don't know if you saw it, there was an article about maybe 10 or 11 years ago, an award, like an end of life.
Oh yes, the last wishes of the dying.
Yeah, and they were
none of them wanted to be at work more.
But they wished that they had just spoken their truth more confidently, cared less about what other people thought, lived that dream that they always thought tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. Take the chance on all those things they were so scared of. I mean, they're all the things that you're saying right now. And I'm sure there's people listening right now that they can make those changes before it's too late. They can go live their life. They can drown out the noise. They can say no to fear and listen to that positive voice that's telling them just go do it.
And not toxic positivity.
I know. And this is something
that's unhelpful.
Yeah.
Write a pros and cons list. I'm a big believer in pros and cons list. Again, I've always done that. What's the pros of me doing this? Right? What's the cons? Do the cons outweigh the pros? And actually, is this a really bad idea? Brilliant. Now at least I know. So I'm going to put that to one side. Okay. Are the cons workable? Are they just challenges? Are they obstacles? Are they obstacles that are there for a reason? Because this is a really stupid idea. Or is that just things that I need to navigate and work through? And also nothing's going to be straightforward and nothing is going to look how you think it's going to look.
Writing it down is so powerful. I don't know about you, I'm very visual. So seeing things as well, because otherwise it's all up here, isn't it? And it can be distorted. But when you actually put it down, it's very black and white.
My vision board's on my phone.
Is it?
Every year, at the start of every year, I make a vision board on Canva. I save it as my screensaver. So every time I pick up my phone, there's always pictures of family members in there, everyone I love. But then there's always something that I want to either make happen, and we tend to just do it about work. That's just ridiculous. Yes, of course have a work ambition, but take it from someone who was in a hospital ward at the start of this year. You need to also have a vision board for how you feel and how your relationships are. And it is not about health as in going to the gym and having a six-pack. I'm not well enough to do that. I look after myself, but I'm not well enough to go and, work out how I did before. When I did SAS, I was super fit. I was really, really fit. I'm not that person now, and that's okay.
You did put out, though, an Instagram post, which I loved because it was when, you've had all the illness at the start of the year. And You said something,
Oh,
Andrea.
the day I went back to the gym and I cried.
But it was something that you said that caught my eye, which was basically you said, like, I'm going to the gym. I'm not ready for this. I know I'm going to be at the back of the class, but I'm going anyway. And I thought, yes, because there are so many women that either need to get fit, but think, I can't do that. Everyone knows what they're doing, or I'm going to be at the back of the class, and they just don't do it. But if you tell yourself, yeah, I'm going to rock up. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm going to be at the back of the class. I'm going to look a bit silly, but I'm showing up.
That's literally my attitude to life. That's literally how I live my life.
But the power the power is turning up anyway, because then you've taken the biggest step, the scariest step. Because once you're there, well,
how I got back into shape after having my second child was I joined the over 60s aerobics class at my local gym. And I was the youngest person
they let you in?
Obviously. Yeah. I was, and I said to them, look, I'm really, I'm not very fit and I need to get, and I blooming loved it because it was my level. It was just a little bit of grapevine and a little bit of box step and woo, and all of that. And it was enough to get me in. But if I'd stood outside thinking this is ridiculous, I know I'm not fit enough to join the really strong aerobics group because I'll faint. So I'm going to join this one. I've never really cared about whether I look stupid or not.
Yeah.
Because again, the people who are going to be mean to you, but why would you worry about if they're going to have the mindset that they're going to be mean to you? Why would I worry about what you think of me? Because you're clearly not very nice. So I don't want you in my circle. So the people who get it will laugh like you did. It's the same with trolls.
Because people know you, because you're recognised. I mean, you just said walking in here, you were, Pap was outside taking photos. Do you feel the pressure to look or be another way? So, you're the anchor of Loose Women, so you must have all this money, you must have a thriving business, you must have looks that are never going to fade. And I feel like there's extra pressure.
There is. Whether you take it or not is up to you.
Yeah.
The pressure may be placed upon you, whether you choose to accept it or not is on you.
Yeah.
Is how I see it.
Mm-hmm.
So of course there is, I got photographed on the way in here today. He could choose the most unflattering picture of me and I'll be in the circle of shame because today it's hot and I'm wearing shorts and flip-flops.
Yeah.
Nothing I can do about that.
Yeah.
I've always been super open about, if I've ever had Botox or anything like that. I'm honest about it. There is nothing going on in the face right now. I'm literally just me. By the end of this week, I wear hair extensions because I have very fine hair naturally. And I've always worn them while I was on telly and all this sort of thing. The end of the week, I'm taking them out and I'm cutting my hair short.
Oh, wow.
And I'm literally having a fresh start. Because of my illness, because of long COVID, because of the severe infection I had at the start of the year, I've lost a lot of hair.
Okay.
And it's so fine now. I feel like I actually need to just give it a fresh start.
Mm-hmm.
So I could keep hiding it and keep the hair extensions in and all of that sort of stuff. But I don't want to.
No.
And I'm completely okay with that.
Oh, I love it.
I'm just me. I just happen to do a job that people could see. It's how I used to explain what I did to my kids. I remember one day, one of them saying to me, Mummy, somebody said, you're Andrea McLean. I said, yes, I am. They said, how do they know your name? I said, because I do a job that people can see. But it's just the same as the other mums work. Not everyone can see them at work. It's just the job I do, people can see it. So they know who I am. Oh, okay, that made total sense to them. And that's how I've always seen it. It doesn't make me any better, worse, whatever. I just happen to do a job you can see. I think taking my hair extensions out and owning the fact that I'm cutting it short to try and allow it to at least be healthy and grow back. And I'm aware it may not grow back properly.
Okay,
I feel so grateful that I've still got some. I've got friends who have totally lost their hair through whether it's stress alopecia, whether it's through long COVID, like I have, but have properly lost all their hair.
Yeah.
I literally look in the mirror and I feel grateful. I've got some hair. I'm going to have short hair. It's going to look ridiculous. I have big ears and a big nose. I don't.
You are stunning. I cannot wait to see what it looks like.
It's going to be interesting. But I don't care. I'm still me. I'm still here. I think I'm great. I don't care what my hair looks like. I'm a nice person and I do my best. And, it could all end tomorrow. Have I done my best? Yes. Have I tried to be good? Yes. I've tried to learn and grow? Yes. What more can you do?
Exactly. Oh, I do think you're just amazing. Listen, before we end up, I wanted to ask you, music is a really big part of my life personally. So this is a bit of a selfish question because I've got a little playlist I put together and it's for all the women that I've met that have stories that are attached to certain songs that mean something to them. And that's just becoming a little thing for me to kind of track this journey of the podcast and the kind of the moments that I have with some special people. So I wanted to ask you if there was a particular song or a track that remind you of either a good time or a bad time or a moment in your life or something that you could title like the soundtrack to your life. Is there anything specific that really stands out to you? And is there a attachment to that?
So if you don't mind, I have two.
Yeah.
So the first one is this girl. It's called Girl on Fire by Alicia Keys.
Oh, yeah.
But it was the name of my business that I ran. This Girl is on Fire. And it's because when everyone sang the song is This Girl is on Fire. And people forget the song's actually called Girl on Fire. And so I called my business This Girl is on Fire because I wanted it to be that I still had a fire within me, even after having a hysterectomy and going on into early menopause. And I wanted to show women of a certain age that, yeah, you still got it. And it was a play on words because we're all hot.
Yeah.
In terms
Obviously.
Of that,
Yeah.
And I don't mean hot in a good way. I mean hot in a really bad way.
Oh, okay.
So it was like you're hot in all the ways. So for many years, This Girl's on Fire was my song. And I felt so proud every time it came on. Then obviously I lost the business. And I cried the first time I heard it because this song used to fill me with such hope and passion and all of that. But I've let go of that now because actually it's still an amazing song. And I think it is quite an empowering song for women, particularly in their middle years.
And through your work, you would have empowered so many women.
Yeah, I did.
And so that song should be a reminder of all those women that you helped.
Yeah, and my amazing community.
Yeah.
And some of them I'm still in touch with and we still champion each other. But my song for now is Right Here, Right Now. And it's the Pete Tong Ibiza Classics version of the Fatboy Slim song.
Okay.
So it's very particular. I think it really resonates with me because all we have is right here, right now.
Oh.
And that really hit home to me at the start of the year. And when I hear it now, I feel such a surge of positivity of this literally is all we have, is this one moment. So how can I make it count? And I don't want to conquer the world. I don't want to do huge things, but how can I make my day count, even in the tiniest of ways? Is it giving my daughter a little squeeze just as I walk by so she doesn't even know I've literally planted the biggest love bomb on her? But I know that I have.
Yeah.
It's, how can I listen to my husband if he's had a hard day at work? How can I do something that makes me feel really good? But I know it's also just keeping the wheels going so that, everything in our lives is moving smoothly. Grabbing the moment isn't all about going to a spa or
doing something
self-care isn't all about that. Actually, sometimes it's just about, I don't know, hearing a song on the radio and feeling, I feel really good about today. That's why that's my song.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. That song doesn't come to mind when you've said it, so I cannot wait after this.
You'll be bouncing around.
It on. Yeah. To end it, I have a moment called the mirror moment, which is just to ask you, if little Andrea was now sitting in this seat opposite you, your journey that you've been on to date, all the wisdom that you have now got through work, through relationships, just through learning who you are, through self-development, what would you like to say to your little Andrea? Do you think if there was one thing that you could really say or a few things that you think could help her on her journey?
What I would say to little Andrea is that Disney films are bullshit. A man does not have to be brooding and strong and distant and harsh. And that's not a signal to you to try and fix him and make him better. And, a man throwing you scraps of love And that's because that's all he's capable of, and making you feel grateful for it. That is not love. What I would say is know your worth. And whilst I've been really blessed, I knew my worth my whole life from when I was little. I've always been super confident in believing in myself and being a good friend and all of these things, being a good daughter and a good sister, and passionately wanting to write. I wanted to write since I was 10, all of these things. And yet there was this big blind spot when it came to relationships, and I didn't know my worth. So for me, it would be giving little Andrea a big squeeze and just whispering in her ear, know your worth. And if somebody is not making you feel worthy, it's on them, and go. That's what I would say. And I know you had one more question, which was about affirmations.
Yes.
So
I'm really big on them, and I just think this can be so powerful.
Yeah.
So tell me yours.
So my affirmation is, what's for you won't go by you. And it was my granny's favorite saying.
Oh.
And
do you believe that?
I really do.
Clearly you do.
Even bad stuff. We tend to think that, it's only the good stuff that's meant to happen to you. But actually, sometimes bad stuff is meant to happen to you, so that either you can learn from it and grow from it, or you can pass on that wisdom to other people. Yeah. Or maybe there's a lesson you are just not learning. So it's making it happen over and over and over again until you learn that lesson. So what is meant to be, what is for you, will not go by you. It will happen. And so often it is happening. It is happening for you. It doesn't feel like it. And it is and I'm not saying this from a position of, oh my gosh, look at me. I'm so wise. I know all these things. Yeah. I'm so lucky. It's just so amazing being so smart as I am. Not at all. Understand that it's a privilege to have the mindset that even bad things happening to you are happening for you. It is a privilege, because that is clearly not always the case. But there is normally something in it that you can learn from. Even if you don't know it right now. Might take years, might take decades, might not even be this lifetime. But there will be something.
Thank you again for sharing that. I think we always think about stars aligning when it's to do with something good, but you're so right. Things that happen to us are happening to us for a reason. When you talked about Nick and reaching over and touching his hand and feeling that moment of electricity, I completely agree with that. I think there's such an exchange of energies when you meet the right people. And I was so excited to meet you, because you've always come across as such a strong, powerful woman, but almost with this gentle side to you as well. You have a very warming aura that you give off, even just watching you on screen. And so to be able to sit here, I've absolutely felt your energy and I've loved it. So I thank you so much for giving me your time.
Thank you for your kind words.
Lovely to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Andrea, thank you for your incredible honesty and bravery in sharing your journey. And for every woman listening, remember this. It's okay to crumble, to start over, and to find your strength in unexpected places. Your story reminds us all that the path to rising again begins with showing up and being true to yourself. This is your time. Now go and claim it.